episode 26 of For What It's Worth. It's your host, Calvin Silvers. And the other day, I came to a realization. I was sitting there and I was thinking about the NBA, of course, as we are in NBA season. And, I was thinking about the Lakers and LeBron and Luca. And I was thinking about the Cavs and how they came back against the Celtics. And, a lot was going through my mind about, what I think will happen come playoff time and then NBA championship and beyond. As I was thinking of all these wonderful things that the NBA can provide for, the daily fan, I realized that I haven't told you guys my predictions yet of how I think this NBA season will end. And, I can't be talking playoffs and beyond and be like, well, back in January, I was thinking this, or, back in February and March, I was thinking this way. How would you guys ever believe me? So, of course, I have to put the receipts out there, and that's what we're going to do in this episode. We're going to talk about teams that have a legitimate shot at an NBA championship. Of course, we'll look at the East side, we'll look at the West side, but we're going to start in the East. And remember, I said legitimate chance of winning an NBA title this season. There's only two teams out in the East. 1A, you have your Boston Celtics. B, you have your Cleveland Cavaliers. No other team comes close. We'll get to why I don't think some of those other teams will matter in the East, but of course, Celtics, Cavs. Let's start with the Celtics. Your top five in offensive rating, defensive rating, and net rating. So being top five in those three categories, that's already a recipe for success. By the way, I should mention, as you guys all know, the NBA consistently has games every night. Of course, the Lakers played the Clippers. So some stats are going to change because I'm going to talk about the Lakers here soon. Some stats might change, if you're listening to this 2, 3 days later. So just keep in mind at the time of this recording is where these stats stand. So if you're the Celtics, Tatum's 27 points, Jalen Brown's 23 points a game, Porzingis coming back from injury, he's averaging 19. You almost have three scorers that average more than 20 points a game. Porzingis is just right there at 19. Now, the biggest thing for the Celtics come playoff time, and we saw it happen last year, and I know he's just now coming back, but can Porzingis stay healthy in these long series of games, constant back-to-back nights or every other night? Can he stay healthy? Because even though they won a championship last year, just imagine how much better I think they would have been with Porzingis out there more. We saw him a little bit, then he, took the time and then came back towards the end. So I think if Porzingis can stay healthy, that's just that much better for the Celtics. But obviously, they can perform without Porzingis as well. They lead the league in three-pointers made. That's huge. And their guard, now this is kind of interesting because I think they both match up pretty well here in the sense of the Celtics and the Cavs because you have Holiday and White. They go toe to toe with Garland and Mitchell. And so that's actually some fun, guard play to see. It's really, can Porzingis and Al Horford, can they neutralize Allen and, Cleveland's other bigs? That's the real question I think is going to come through a series if they do meet up. Tatum, Brown, Holiday, White. The good thing about these teams too is that they haven't really faced injuries. Like I said, Porzingis, but your core of Tatum, Brown, Holiday, White, they played in 90% plus of games together, and they have just depth on their team. 9-2 in their last 11 as of March 2nd. They got wins over Cleveland, Philly, Denver. Their clutch rating is top five in close games, and their 3-point volume it just keeps them elite. So I think that's a huge success in not only today's NBA but just championship DNA in the NBA is your ability to shoot threes at a high clip at a high rate. Let's go to Cleveland. Just looking at them, they lead the NBA with a high offensive rating, top 10 defensively as well, and a top three net rating. Let's go to their players. Donovan Mitchell averaging 24.5 points per game. Darius Garland, 21.3 points per game. And Evan Mobley, 18.6 points per game, 9 rebounds a game, and 2 blocks per game. So again, you almost have three scorers averaging 20 points offensively. They're the best team in plus and minus in the NBA. And Mobley's weren't I was mentioning his offensive stats there. He's got the 2 blocks average per game. I mean, he's got some defensive player of the year buzz. That just adds grit to this team. So you got your scorers. and you got a great two-way player in Mobley. Mitchell's 31 points in his 10 rebound game on February 4th that showed his ceiling. And then, though, Boston's perimeter did contain that late. So it just shows that both these teams are really even when they get out there on the court. But Mobley and Jared Allen, they could really punish those smaller lineups. And then again, key to success is no injuries, fully healthy. I mean, Mitchell, Garland, Mobley, Allen missed minimal time. They each have 50 plus games played. And just like the Celtics, they too have depth. And let's not forget, their 11 plus point differential, first in the NBA, and their league leading offense. It just screams NBA contender. So I mentioned, why not the others? Why not the Knicks? Well, I'll tell you why not the Knicks. 0-3 versus Boston so far, 0-2 versus Cleveland so far, and 0-2 versus OKC so far. Some are saying those are three of the highest, title contenders this season, which, spoiler alert, one of those teams I don't think is, and I already went over two of them. So, just a little spoiler alert for the drama that lies ahead here with my, you know, legitimate teams that can make an NBA championship. But let's go on. Those losses include a 27-point blowout to Cleveland. Of course, it was opening night, but a 29-point blowout loss to the Celtics on opening night. Jalen Brunson, he's not the problem. Your problem is, and no shocker here. I'm just kind of shocked. I guess it's happening now and not in playoffs. But Carl Anthony Towns averages 22 points per game. He shrinks in those games, in these games against, title contenders. He's averaging 16.5 points per game versus those top five teams. So just is taking a step back. Why can't it be the Milwaukee Bucks? I'll tell you the main reason why it can't be the Milwaukee Bucks. Doc Rivers is the main reason why the Bucks have no shot at winning an NBA championship. His playoff record, 2009 to 2024, of course, after winning the championship with the Celtics, 65 and 89. 8 and 15 in playoff series. He wins just 34.8% of his series since the championship. He's been knocked out in the first or second round 13 times in 15 tries. He is 5 and 10 in game 7 since 2008, and he's lost his last 5. His teams have been outscored by 14 points per game in those losses. He blows 3-1 leads. He's 16 and 33 in games with the chance to clinch a series. 0 conference final appearances since 2010, and in 14 postseasons since he's 0-9 and reaching, the final 14. He's been stopped in the second round 7 times since 2010. And the thing is, it's just not like he's had, bad teams or teams that only get hot at certain times and didn't have the star power to carry you through. No, he had Pierce, Garrett, Allen, CP3, Griffin, Jordan, Embiid, Harden. Now he has Giannis and Dame. There's no excuse, but just knowing how he performs and how his teams perform when it comes to playoffs and clutch moments, it's not good. All right, now you might want me to be a little more analytical than just saying, well, Doc Rivers is a curse. Fine, whatever. When Giannis and Dame sit, their defensive rating it's the worst in the NBA. Gary Trent Jr., Prince, they can't stop anyone. So the defense is a problem there. Their rotations, they need to get figured out. And they have no perimeter stopper beyond Giannis. All right, let's go to the Pacers. The main thing with the Pacers is bottom in the league in defensive rebounding rate and total rebounds. They're not going to beat you on the boards. They're going to allow 14. They average 14 second chance points per game. That's bottom 10 of the league. So when you're going to go against, someone with some good bigs like the Celtics, like the Cavaliers, there's just no shot you're going to get there. All right, let's go to the West. And I'm not necessarily going to start with the team that I think is most legitimate to win an NBA title. I'm going to just kind of, you know, go the way I want. And then you'll see the team I left out here. Why LeBron and Luca are a deadly playoff duo, and why I think that they have a legitimate chance to carry the Lakers to an NBA title. LeBron James, this guy does not age. And if he does age, it's like fine wine. 25 points per game, 8 rebounds per game, 8.5 assists per game, 52% field goal percentage, 38% from 3 point. At 40, he is still a top 10 player, top 5 player. He's third in minutes at the age of 40. He has those clutch stats, top 5 net rating in close games when you need him to shine. Luca, pre-trade Dallas, it was easier just to get those stats, but he's slowly getting in with LeBron and the Lakers. But pre-trade, 28.5 points per game, 8.5 rebounds per game, 8 assists per game, 47% field goal, 37% from 3 point range. His usage has slightly dipped since joining the Lakers. That's no surprise there, about 4%. But his efficiency has climbed. So they're using him in the right ways. And I just don't see how, when you pair a LeBron James, this generation's GOAT, the 2000, all of like the best player in the 2000s. If you want to go 90, 80s, 90s and argue Jordan, you can go ahead and do that. I'm talking about in the 2000s. LeBron is the best player, and now you're paired him, and he's still performing like that, as I just went over. Now, if he was only playing 20 so minutes a game and was barely getting to 20 points per game, I you know, they wouldn't be a legitimate title contender, but he's still performing like he was almost in Miami. Obviously, not to the full extent, but I'm just saying stat wise, stuff can be comparable to there. And then you butt him with the best youngest star. I mean, Luka's always been, in my eyes, for the past few years, a top 5 player in the league. And so you pair LeBron's experience, which is a lot, with Luka's experience, which is a lot at this age. I just don't see how that's a recipe for disaster. Since Luka's a rival, their offensive rating is it's top 5. Net rating, top 5. Since Luka can't, he's not making. I'm sure they had that loss against Charlotte, but I don't really see this team taking it too slow much longer. I think they're going to hit the ground running. In their games together, LeBron assists on 12% of buckets. Luka set up 15% of LeBron's. They're starting to get it. They're starting to feed off each other. Their pick and roll generates 1.25 points per possession. That's top 5 league wide. This is a nasty duo. LeBron, he's won. I mentioned this in the last podcast. He won titles with Wade. He won title with Irving. He won a title with Davis. He's been matched with a ball dominant star, and he wins championships. Luka, a hybrid really of all 3 of those: elite scorer, elite passer, and off ball threat. History shows that LeBron can not only gel with this kind of talent, but can win at the biggest stage with this kind of talent. Now, I mentioned Luka, his experience, although a small career, he's got a lot going for him. 30.9 points per game in 50 playoff games. That's second all time, and it includes 8 games of 40 plus. He led Dallas in 3 straight playoffs. And let's not forget, one of those was last year's finals run. And this man is the same age as me. And if we want to get fun with it, let's look at the overall legacy of the Lakers, because people love bringing up history. People love, feeling pride for a franchise. And this is a very proud franchise. 17 titles, really built on duos: Magic and Kareem, Shaq and Kobe. LeBron and AD even contributed to that. So now, LeBron and Luka, why can't they do it? No Laker duo has matched their combined 53.5 points per game since Shaq and Kobe back in 2002-03 season. You want me to keep going on? I can keep going on. That's what I'm saying. There's just something special about what Luka does for this Lakers offense that also unlocks what LeBron can do better. LeBron slashing, Luka step back threes. Defenses have to pick their poison. Pick and roll exploits the switches. Luka's vision, as I was mentioning earlier, being an elite passer. He finds LeBron cutting. LeBron can kick it out to Luka for a tray, who I haven't even mentioned yet. Reeves, who's averaging 19 points per game. Hachimura, 13.5 points per game. They feast off the gravity that is pulled by LeBron and Luca. Oh, the high offensive rating just reflects on Luca's ability to get players around him thriving. As much as you might want to complain about him, or as much as people said, I don't know if they're going to gel together, I think they're proving that wrong. So Lakers are one team of three out of the West that I think are legitimate. Let's go to the second team. Like I said, not this isn't in order. I'm just kind of having fun here with the West. But if we're talking about another legitimate team, we got to look at the Nuggets. They have elite guard play plus Michael Porter Jr. Christian Brown over 14.8 points per game, 51% field goal, 40% three-point shooting. Michael Porter Jr. 18.7 points per game, 6.8 rebounds, 49% field goal, 41% from three point, leads Denver in three pointers made. Jokic, gravity. We were talking about gravity that LeBron and Luca had. Well, what about Jokic? His gravity pulls defenses apart. I mean, he can, as mentioned, feed Brown with those cuts. He's averaging 1.2 points per cut. So get that for him. You got Porter, who loves shooting threes. Most three pointers made on the team. Kick it out to him. So you can't, focus too much on Jokic, but you have to. And then not only that, Brown, he can really guard anyone on the floor besides probably your center. Porter, he has a great frame, I think, 6'10". So he gives Denver some matchup flexibility there. He can grab you a board. And their 40% three-point shooting, it just spreads the floor even more. Fifth, and three-pointers made. So we talked about them. Who have we not talked about? Well, we haven't talked about Jamal Murray and Russell Westbrook, who I have my thoughts on Russell Westbrook, but I'll try to be nice here in this episode. But Jamal Murray, I know I'm going through a lot of numbers here, but I just have to highlight players that need to be highlighted, what they can do, because they will be looked upon in the playoffs. Jamal Murray, 21 points per game, 6 assists per game, 48% field goal percentage, 41 from 3. Russell Westbrook adds 12.5 points per game, 6 assists, and 47% field goal off the bench. So opponents allow 28.5 points per game off drives when they're both on. That's a top 10 duo. Aaron Gordon, I haven't mentioned yet. He has 13 points per game. Murray is 21, as I mentioned. That just rounds out a top 5 offense and defense. And the bench ranks 8th. So they have the depth too. So there's really no weak links. I can't really point in one direction and say that's super weak or that's something that's going to be a huge issue. And I think that's why they're a legitimate team to win an NBA title. Jokic, the best player in the league, if not one of them, has to be top 3. Averages a triple double on the season, leads the NBA in player efficiency rating and win shares and triple doubles. So whenever you have arguably the best player in the league on your team, that automatically gives you a legitimate shot of winning the NBA championship. Jokic, Porter, and Brown since 2022 have 48 playoff games together, 33-15 record. The 2023 title that featured Porter's 16-13 in Game 5 versus Miami, and Brown's 15-point Finals debut in Game 3, and just Murray's his postseason success mark that also adds depth. So just overall, no weak links here with this Nuggets team. And my third and final team out of the West that have a legitimate shot, I believe, in winning an NBA championship are the Golden State Warriors. And here's why. Jimmy Butler is a playoff beast. We all know this. We all saw it in the bubble. 21.3 points per game, 6.2 rebounds per game, 4.6 assists per game, 46.7 field goal percentage, 34% three-point, and 83% at the line, averaging 35 minutes per game. That's his entire career in the postseason. Playoff efficiency, top 20 all-time among active players. As I mentioned, the 2020 bubble finals, upsetting Milwaukee, and then they upset Boston, and then he played well against the Lakers, especially in Game 3. Only player in finals history with a 40-point triple-double outscoring LeBron even. And he's 7th in postseason box plus minus since 2018-19 with 8 career 40-point playoff games. So, playoff Jimmy, as everyone coined him after that run with the Heat. It was very exciting to watch. Haven't really seen a player put it all on the line like that in a while. Steph Curry, he's been on a tear lately. He's just a playoff legend as well. Since Butler's debut, Curry's averaging over 29 points per game, 5 assists per game, 5 rebounds per game, 49% shooting, 45% from 3-point. and he's averaging 5 threes made per game. So he has not declined. Jimmy Butler hasn't forced Curry to get out of his game. Um, when Steph is with Butler and Draymond, it's second in the NBA. They have 120.5 offensive rating. That's second in the NBA. His 45% 3 point since Butler joining stretches defenses. His opponents shoot 5% worse from three versus Golden State. So why can't I add the Thunder? Why can't Calvin add the Thunder to his list? I know you're asking yourself, Calvin, come on. They're the best in the West. How do you not have them as a legitimate title contender? And if they made it, would I be that shocked? No. I have them on they're the fourth team. If I had to make, a top five of teams out of the West, it'd probably be my fourth team. But why I can't add them? Can't Chet if he had a matchup with the Nuggets? Can Chet hold Jokic in a 7 game series? Can they get the points in the paint? Can they stop the second chance points? I just don't think they could. And I know it has to break at some point, but their youth and inexperience still does not excite me. I still can't get behind them going all the way to an NBA Finals yet. Maybe get a series win, maybe two, maybe, but to go all the way to the championship and win, just not quite there yet. Can Dort hang with Curry? I just don't think he would keep up with him off of the screens if that were to be a series that had to be played. I think there's just a star overmatch. I think Jokic paired with everyone else I mentioned with the Nuggets, LeBron and Luca, 47 points per game that duo averages. Curry and Butler, they're averaging 46.6 points per game right now. Sure, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander averages 31. I mean, he is your bulk. Williams can almost get you 20. I just don't think they are quite to the level of a LeBron or Luca or a Curry or Butler or even Jokic, and you can pull, any of the names I said. I guess they're probably better than like maybe a Jokic. Well, even I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I just don't. While Shea is really good and is MVP caliber, is Williams really that great compared to these other duos I mentioned? Is he really there yet? I just don't think they have quite the star power to match with some of those other duos. So that is episode 26 of For What It's Worth. As mentioned, I am your host, Calvin Silvers, and just had to get out there my receipts, my predictions, what I think can happen, why I think teams can make it, and why I think teams can't make an NBA championship. Legitimate is the key word here in my phrasing over today's topic. If you haven't already, please go ahead and follow us on socials. I'm probably going to forget one, but we're on anything and everything. We're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on X or Twitter. Does anyone still call it Twitter anymore? I think that's probably done now. I think everyone has gotten behind the fact that it's called X. But just type in For What It's Worth podcast. You can type in at FWIW Sports Pod. Type in whatever you can to find our podcast. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. Uh, Go ahead, share the links, like, comment, subscribe, favorite, whatever you got to do on whatever social media you are on. I really appreciate it. And until next time, have a good one.